The Watership Down podcast is intended for listeners who are familiar with the plot. There will be spoilers. This episode is scripted, recorded, edited and narrated by Newell Fisher. Hello, and welcome to the Watership Down podcast episode 147, in which we'll be looking at the last 15 minutes of season 2, episode 9 of the TV series, and episode 22 of the series overall, Winter on Watership Down, episode 2. This will be part 3 and the last part of our Frithmas special, which is being released on the winter solstice of 2023 in the Northern Hemisphere, which I also regard as being Frith's Eve. I'm still showcasing Watership Down themed art, details in the notes. Please let me know if you would like your Watership Down themed art to appear as the podcast title image for an episode, with full credit given. So then, back to our story, as a large creature looms over Buttercup at the edge of the maze. TV series Season 2 Episode 9, Winter on Watership Down Episode 2 and Frithmas Special Episode 3. The 22nd episode of the Watership Down TV series was first broadcast in the UK on the 28th of September 2000. It was written by Mary Crawford and Alan Templeton. There will be a link to the episode in the notes. This episode of the podcast covers the last 15 minutes of episode 22. A large creature has just loomed over Buttercup as Hazel and his companions have realised that the rabbits they are sheltering from the winter cold with are being deliberately fed by humans, which is a huge red flag for the rabbits of Watership Down. Buttercup turns round to look at what Hazel and Hawkbit are staring at behind her, and smiles. The creature is a deer, its antlers shed for winter, and Buttercup says he is a regular here. Having got the cliffhanger out of the way, Buttercup tells her guests that the food is all fresh. The humans leave it here every morning. This just scares them even more. Hazel says they have to get back to their friends. When Buttercup tries saying they just got to the food, he shouts at her. Hazel is clearly angry and afraid. He tells Hawkbit and Dandelion that Fiver was right about this place. They cannot trust any rabbit who accepts food given by humans. They will go back to collect Bigwig and Fiver and leave, fast. He says to stay away from the hedges of the maze they are in, as they are probably snared. This means there is no avoiding navigating the maze. Having shouted at Buttercup, he also says to stay close and act normal, which might be difficult now. Meanwhile, on the other side of the maze, the fox arrives and enters. It is tracking rabbits. Hazel and his companions arrive back in the warren under the Christmas tree at the centre of the maze, and Hazel warns Bigwig and Fiver that these rabbits have surrendered to man, as he puts it. Bigwig immediately realises that there must be snares everywhere. However, Fiver senses that although there is danger here, it does not come from these rabbits, or, interestingly, from the humans. Bigwig and Hazel remind him what humans did to their old warren at Sandalford, and how Bigwig nearly died in a snare at the last warren they visited that accepted food given by humans. But Fiver just says that is what he is feeling. I suppose it makes no sense. The plan is to wait until everyone is asleep, then take as much flair out as possible and leave. Hazel says it doesn't matter that they don't know which way home is. They are better off anywhere but here. The fox makes its way further into the maze. It looks confident of a meal of rabbit as it follows a clear scent. Back on Watership Down, Keehar is in the honeycomb, saying sadly how the place will not be the same without Hazel, Bigwig and Fiver. Pipkin still cannot accept that they are gone, but Blackberry gently says bad things can even happen on Frith's Eve. But Pipkin objects. Dandelion has to tell the story of Ella and the Big Freeze. He always does. Primrose suggests to Pipkin that he tell the story instead. She will help him out if he needs her to. Keehar also asks him to tell the story. It will be good for his sad heart. Pipkin agrees to, as his face turns angry and determined. He ascends a platform, and as the guest wildlife gather around, he begins. This is the second story of Ella, or Ella to give him his proper name, created for this series that did not appear in the original novel. The first appeared in episode 15, The Roundabout, and was covered in episode 139 of this podcast. Although it wasn't given a name, I call that one El-Ra and the Valley of Wisdom. This Winter's Tale is a good example of a solstice story told by those who do not know why the seasons exist. Pipkin begins by saying that there was a time when the world never got dark and cold because Frith was always in the sky. If I were to really push the sophistication of this series, one might suggest that this is intended to be a species memory of the origin of the European rabbit, far to the south in the Iberian Peninsula, modern-day Spain and Portugal. The scene shifts to the stylised portrayal of the tales of El-Ra used in this series, as Pipkin explains that one day Frith went away. The world grew cold and was covered in snow. There was no food. So El-Ra and Rabscuttle went to visit Prince Rainbow, who also lived in the sky. I believe the spinning disc we now see is the first portrayal of Prince Rainbow on film. They ask him where Frith has gone. Apparently he is visiting the stars to find out the secret of the universe. You really would have thought a sun god would know that already. El-Ra knew that his people could not survive without Frith, so he made a plan to trick him into returning. He told Prince Rainbow that they would make tracks in the snow that would spell out the secret of the universe. This done, he then asked Prince Rainbow to fetch Frith to come back and read the message. The plan worked. Frith returned to read the message, and the snow melted, as well as the message. Frith then saw how he had been missed, and that this had been unfair of him. He promised that even though he would go away to visit his other worlds, he would always return. As a sign of his promise, he made holly, ivy and yew that stay green all winter, to show that no matter how cold it gets in winter, he will always return. Pipkin ends by saying that Hazel will also return, like Frith, because he promised. This juvenile logic is enough to convince Keeha, who starts crying and says he gave up looking too easily. He will go and find Hazel, and that is his promise. Meanwhile, in the maze warren, Hazel is putting his escape plan into action. With the rabbits of the warren asleep, they all grab Flayra and start to leave. However, Buttercup spots them and asks what they are doing. She has 2 bucks with her. Bigwig tells Hazel to go. He will hold them off. He charges, screaming in fury. Running above ground, Bigwig is pursued by the 2 bucks. He throws them off easily. Then by 4 bucks, he deals with them as well. More rabbits charge Bigwig. Buttercup arrives and orders the fighting to stop. She says to Bigwig that they tried to help him and yet he has attacked them. Why? Bigwig says they live alongside man, who is ill. Therefore that makes them an enemy. Buttercup says he does not understand them. Bigwig's response is the saying, "At the sight of man, run as fast as you can." Buttercup introduces him to a revolutionary idea. Maybe all humans are not alike, like rabbits. Bigwig says that is right. His rabbits do not take food from humans. Buttercup points out that that is exactly what they were doing. That is why they were out on Frith's Eve. Bigwig responds that stealing food from humans is fine, but not taking it from man's hand like dogs. Buttercup insists that in this warren they do not need to steal. The humans here understand how harsh winter is and give them food as a gift. Bigwig is confused. Humans do not care about rabbits. Buttercup insists some of them do, and to trust her. Meanwhile, Hazel, Fiver, Dandelion and Hawkbit are trying to make their way out of the maze as quickly as they can with their stolen Flayra, but they are hopelessly lost. Hawkbit, in panic, suggests going through the hedge, but Hazel forbids it. There may be snares. He tells them to go back the way they came. And then they see the fox. And with a snarl, it sees them. And they run for their lives. Overhead, Keeha has arrived back and is calling out for Hazel and his companions. And now an added complication. The humans leave the mansion carrying lanterns and singing a song about holly and ivy. They enter the maze. The rabbits reach the edge of the maze and see the humans. Just as they are about to run in one direction, the fox arrives. It prepares to leap at the rabbits, but is distracted by the sound of humans. The rabbits make a run for it in the direction they came from. The fox snarls and follows. And now Keehar spots them and begins to guide them through the maze. But how does he know where to guide them to? He knows nothing about the maze or the warren. The humans have arrived at the decorated tree at the centre of the maze, and the children are singing a song about something called Christmas. This means that the warren, the rabbits' only source of safety at this point, is blocked by humans. The tree is surrounded by bushes that obscure the entrance to the warren, and standing outside that entrance are Bigwig and Buttercup. Bigwig wonders what on earth the humans are doing. Buttercup says she doesn't know, but it is wonderful. Bigwig admits that there may be more to humans than he thought. Meanwhile, the chase through the maze continues. Keehar shouts at Hazel to go left. The fleeing rabbits arrive back at the tree. Without hesitating, they run straight through the humans and underground past Bigwig and Buttercup. The fox arrives at the tree and yelps in terror. Instead of the rabbits it expected, it is met with a group of humans. They stop singing and turn to look in the fox's direction as it turns tail and runs. Underground, the rabbits get their breath back. Hazel asks Bigwig if he is okay. He says that they were wrong about Buttercup. Fiver says he knew it. The danger he sensed was the fox. But, Hazel points out, there are humans right outside. Buttercup assures him that they are no danger. Bigwig adds that apparently these humans like rabbits. Hazel, Hawkbit and Dandelion find the concept of good humans a difficult one to accept. But Fiver points out that when they arrived on Watership Down, Hazel said they would have to be prepared to accept new ideas. Hazel admits this is true. Buttercup says that in the same way the humans have shared with her warren, they would like to share with the rabbits of Watership Down. Hazel says that in the spirit of Frith's Eve they accept. Bigwig says the humans are at it again as we hear the singing return. Fiver says it just sounds right as the camera pans up past the holly in the warren, above ground to the top of the Christmas tree at the centre of the maze, where an angel shines brightly as the song reaches its conclusion. On Watership Down, the guests are leaving. Yona the hedgehog says she is sorry it turned out this way. Primrose thanks everyone for coming. She wishes they had food, and she wishes Hazel were here. She looks desolate. And it is at that point, of course, that Keehar arrives to proclaim the good news before performing another disastrous snow landing. Not only has Keehar found the raiding party, he has guided them back as he promised. Hazel and his companions arrive back on Watership Down carrying Flayra. Only there are 8 rabbits arriving on Watership Down, not just the 5 who left. This means that 3 rabbits from Buttercup's warren of the maze have come back with them in order to help them carry more Flayra. Pipkin reminds Primrose that he promised they would return. She says she shouldn't have doubted him. The fact that it was a promise he couldn't make is ignored. Pipkin embraces Hazel, exclaiming that he came back. Hazel asks if there was ever any doubt about that. And the rabbits of 2 warrens, as well as other friends of rabbits, gather under the bare branches of that welcoming tree on Watership Down.
As man shares with us, we'd like to share with you.
In the spirit of Frith's Eve, we accept. And we thank you.
Listen, they're at it again. It sounds right. Doesn't it, Hazel? It's Frith's Eve and it sounds right.
Is it Christmas? First of all, let's dispense immediately with the idea that this story is canon. Although it does include a pursuit through a maze by a member of the Elil, which refers back to Chapter 8 of Tales from Watership Down, it clearly has no relevance to the Watership Down canon as I have predefined it. However, it does include a new tale of Elachera, which is one of the most interesting aspects of this series, and a very visually impressive one it is too. And for that tale of optimism in the face of the depths of a harsh winter, it deserves credit. Instead, let us focus on the human side of this Frithmas story. After all, if you're listening to this, you're human, unless I have seriously misunderstood the nature of reality or how long podcasts survive into the future. A wealthy family who like to help the rabbits who live in their garden maze through winter, as well as other creatures on their estate, invite friends around for a pre-Christmas gathering on the winter solstice. This is a family tradition, and this particular solstice falls on a Sunday, which means they're able to go to church beforehand. And this exceptionally cold winter means they're able to do so using a sleigh, a rare treat. Their friends bring gifts that are placed under the Christmas tree, and their children excitedly inspect these, though they are not allowed to open them until Christmas Day. Having enjoyed food and drinks, they complete their family tradition by going outside and walking the maze with lanterns, and then singing around the living Christmas tree that grows at the centre of the maze. This is briefly interrupted by a fox that runs into the centre of the maze after some rabbits. However, on seeing the humans, it runs off, and the singing continues. So, this family exemplify the spirit of Christmas, but also of the Frithmas I proposed in last week's episode. And in the spirit of Frithmas, we will be putting out food for wildlife tonight, as we do regularly throughout the year. None of this will be eaten by rabbits. Our nearest warren is too far away, and as I said in episode 119, in our world, rabbits simply do not go raiding over long distances. No, our gifts will be eaten mainly by lendries and hombers. That's badgers and foxes for those of you not familiar with lapine. Because, although a fox will kill and eat a rabbit if it is hungry enough, in reality they prefer an easy meal, and they are not actually villains, just animals obeying their evolved instincts. This tale of Frithmas, like many tales told at this time of year, is very naive in many ways. But for all that, it tries to provide a good example to its young viewers of positive attitudes towards nature, and that can only be a good thing. May I, on this winter solstice in the northern hemisphere and summer solstice in the southern hemisphere, once again take this opportunity to wish both you and those you love a very Merry Christmas, or whatever festival you may celebrate at this time of year. And, of course, a very Merry Frithmas. Next time, the rabbits of Watership Down are blessed with a visit from two messengers of Prince Rainbow.